Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm joined by Father Phil Hurley of the Pope's Worldwide Prayer Network. Father, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on Ave Maria Radio.
So you are the National Director of the Worldwide Prayer Network. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, the Prayer Network was actually, it's an organization that sounds kind of new, but it was actually begun in 1844. There was a group of young Jesuits who were studying for priesthood in France. And as I joke, never happens with seminarians today, they were kind of tired of studying so much philosophy and theology, and they wanted to go out on mission now to be like missionaries in the world. And so they were telling their superior this, and their superior said, look, you got to study your philosophy, you got to study your theology, you need to prepare for your future work. But he developed this prayer for them, which a prayer of offering. And he said, look, if you offer each day all of your works, your prayers, your joys, your sufferings, each day to God in union with Jesus' offering of himself in the Eucharist, that's fruitful. That's fruitful for the mission of the church around the world. And so that's where the practice of a morning offering prayer started. These young Jesuit seminarians started praying it, and it caught on very quickly in the mid-1800s among lots of lay people, which makes sense because whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a stay-at-home mom or a professor or whatever, living out your vocation, offering every prayer, work, joy, and suffering, the fact that that's fruitful for the whole church is a pretty amazing thing. And just offering each day at the beginning of each day. And then in the 1890s, Pope Leo XIII, the namesake predecessor of Pope Leo now XIV, he said, this is super powerful that all these people, millions of people are praying this daily offering prayer. I'm going to start to offer monthly intentions that when everybody prays that prayer in the morning, they can offer it for a specific intention all together in any given month. And that practice of the Pope giving prayer intentions for the whole world to pray for each month continues to today. And so the prayer network began there, and we continue to promote the morning offering prayer and living out our vocation in that way, and also to pray for the Pope's intentions.
And I thank you for your direction of so virtuous an endeavor. Can you talk about the fruit that has come about as a result of it?
Sure. Well, I think one of the instances of the fruit is within those first couple decades in the 1800s, the fact that this very simple thing, this very short offering prayer, which maybe some of our listeners might already pray or know about or heard of growing up, but we hope to introduce it to people who haven't heard of it yet. This very simple practice with millions of people praying it, that the Pope took notice, right? He said, this is spiritually fruitful. And I think some of the fruits have come up in the fact of, the missionary endeavors of that time, of more people finding out about Jesus and about his church. And I think moving into today, when all the popes from Pope Leo XIII have continued to offer those intentions, I think the popes have continued to see, like, wow, the world needs more and more prayer. That millions of people praying for this, like, things can be really bad in the world, but imagine if people weren't praying for all of these intentions that the Pope gives. The other fruit, I think, is this. I mean, I would venture to say that the fact that so many people started praying this prayer, that it's had an effect on the way that people have seen their vocation and even called to be saints ever since that time in the mid-1800s. Here's two examples. One example of a member of the Pope's Prayer Network from many years ago is none other than Saint Therese of Lisieux. I'm actually in my office here looking at a picture of her and looking at a copy of her membership card for the Prayer Network, which used to be called the Apostleship of Prayer. It's now called the Prayer Network. But she signed up for this network of prayer, basically saying, I'll pray the morning offering each day, and I'll pray for the Pope's intentions. And we have signed, Therese Martin, we have signed from 1885 her membership card. And I can't help but to think that this idea, this practice that she began as a young girl, okay, I'm going to pray and offer, Jesus, I offer you my day, all of my prayers, my works, my joys and sufferings of this day, as a schoolgirl, for the mission of the church around the world. I think that had an influence on the little way that she eventually developed. I mean, she developed her own prayer practices, of course, and, the story of a soul. She's now considered a doctor of the church. But I think the seeds of that was this insight she had from being part of this prayer network. Like, my life and my works and joys and sufferings matter, and I can connect this with the larger thing that the church is doing. Another one of our members, a little bit more recently and most recently canonized, is St. Pier Giorgio Frassati. We also have in Italian his membership card for the Apostleship of Prayer, now called the Prayer Network. So, members of this network have literally become saints. And I think it's something that has helped many people, whatever their vocation is, especially many lay people in the church, to recognize if I do what God calls me to do in whatever vocation and in whatever career and whatever work the Lord calls me to at this given time, and even just one day at a time, that makes a difference in the mission of the whole church.
Can you speak briefly about what you're doing with Catholics at the Shore as well?
Sure, yeah. I'm really looking forward to going to that Catholics at the Shore event. I hope to share some of the same things that I shared now, so make more people more aware of the fact that this prayer network has this amazing history and that we can continue to do amazing things through prayer and as apostles of prayer today. I think it's also really cool that the theme of the conference at Catholics at the Shore, that we need nothing more, is actually drawn from a quote from St. Margaret Mary Alacoque. St. Margaret Mary was a saint who received visions of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and that's also a big devotion that we promote in the Pope's Prayer Network. Early on from the Prayer Network, we picked up on the tradition within the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, of promoting devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and so the Prayer Network has been doing that for these 180 years. The connection with St. Margaret Mary, first of all, was that her spiritual director, now St. Claude Le Colombière, was a Jesuit priest who was sent to her convent, and they really partnered together to promote devotion to the Sacred Heart. So I can't wait to dive into that theme a little bit more along with the Holy Father's intentions at that conference.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you and hearing your talk there as well. Before we proceed, Father, I was also told that you have a unique story to tell about Pope Leo and baseball.
Well, that's right. Well, one of the amazing things that I've been able to do, the most amazing is helping people to learn how to pray. But in addition to that, one of the most amazing things I've been able to do in this first year as the U.S. National Director of the Prayer Network. It's a prayer network around the whole world. It's actually a pontifical work around the world, and I just work for the U.S. office. But I was able to go to an international meeting, to go to Rome actually for the first time this past January, and we had a meeting, a small audience with just about 30 people with the Holy Father, with Pope Leo. And so in advance of that, I thought, well, what could I bring him as a gift? I mean, I'm the U.S. National Director, so I spoke with our International Director, and I said, what if for the whole cohort that's there to greet him from the Prayer Network, what if I get him made a special-made baseball jersey that says Pope's Prayer Network on it? And he said, go ahead, do it. So I walked up. I was able to shake the Holy Father's hand, greet him. I said, hey, I'm from Milwaukee in our national office, just north of your hometown in Chicago. I showed him the jersey, which he really loved. I said, you have lots of White Sox jerseys, but not one from your own prayer network. And then underneath the jersey, I had a baseball and a Sharpie marker ready. And I said, Holy Father, would you also sign this baseball that we could just keep in our U.S. national office of the Pope's Prayer Network? And as he took the baseball and the pen from me, he said, I stopped signing these a few months ago. And I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. I was just thinking to myself. But he said, but for somebody from Milwaukee, I'll sign it. So he signed it for me. And as I kid you not, as he handed me back the baseball, he has a wonderful sense of humor. He said with a smile on his face, and I quote, I don't want to see this on eBay. so I realized, I was like, oh, that's probably why he stopped signing them, because they're showing up on eBay. But I was so glad that he offered it to me. And we're not going to sell it. We're going to keep it in our office. I have my marching orders.
My guest has been Father Phil Hurley. He's the National Director of the Pope's Worldwide Prayer Network, and he's also going to be at the Catholics at the Shore Conference happening soon. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.